Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at the B&W Companion fifth wheel for Ford OEM prep packages. And this is one of my favorite fifth wheels that you can get out on the market. And if you have that OEM prep package from Ford and you're looking for a fifth wheel that just drops in, this is definitely the first one I'd look at. And for a few reasons. And as we get a little bit closer into the attachment on the Ford OEM prep package, I'll break everything down that makes it specific to these trucks. Starting at the top where we are going to actually attach to our kingpin, this is going to be the part that's going to connect to your trailer. So obviously pretty important that it's going to be a secure connection. And this one uses two jaws that are 1 inch thick to create a 360 around the kingpin. The handle is really nice. You have an attached linch pin here that holds that in place when it's locked. But to open it, you'll just simply unpin that. You can slide this back. If you want to, you can also put the pin back in place to keep it open. But as your kingpin goes in, this will wrap completely around it. And so some of the other ones out there, they have a pin that slides in. This is a much more, I think, secure attachment. It also cuts down on rattling because it really cinches around that kingpin, so it doesn't give it a ton of space to wobble around too much. It's going to keep it nice and secure, which is going to translate to a smoother drive overall, but also a lot less noise while going down the road. Putting this back in place as I pin it up, you can put a padlock through here. So if you plan on keeping your trailer hooked up to your fifth wheel and you want it to be nice and secure to where no one can unlatch it, you can go ahead and lock that up. But with this jaw, it's really nice. You don't have to be on fully level ground to unlatch it. It's real smooth actuation too. You don't really have to fight it. And good leverage too. You can still reach from the outside of the truck to be able to get this to unlatch. So overall, a really good design. The smoothest continues on the head. So this articulates not only front to back, but also a little bit side to side. And that's going to be nice overall too, because a lot of times other fifth wheels, you can rattle this around, you can hear metal to metal contact. That's not the case here. And it's going to make it a lot easier to attach, but it's also going to cut down on chucking as you're out on the road. So a nice cushion here, just a smooth action overall. And what we're going to take a look now is why it's called the Companion. A lot of times with fifth wheels, they're very heavy, no matter kind of what you get. Even the lightweight ones are pretty heavy. But being able to break this down into separate pieces makes it to where you can take big chunks of weight out at one time. And that way you can actually use your bed if you want to take your fifth wheel out, is where some of the other ones, you're not going to want to uninstall them and break them down into pieces, and it's going to be heavy in the entire process. So these pins simply just keep these handles from going up, which latches this into place. So we'll pull these out. So just 2 cotter pins, and then our pins are attached with chains too. So that's really nice. You don't have to worry about, getting these lost or anything in the process. So as I raise this up, you have 2 really nice gripped handles that are going to release this as we pull up. With that head taken off, that's taken a lot of that weight off. So all I'd need to do is unlatch our base. And this also has handles to pull it out, but it cuts the weight nearly in half. We'll take a little bit closer look, but let's take a look at the head and some of the features that we have on it. On the side, you can see the strut that we have that's blue. That's going to be where it accounts for that side-to-side movement. So again, some of the other fifth wheels out there, they're just kind of free, and that's going to be metal to metal, where this one, any pivoting points, anything that's moving is going to have some sort of way to cushion that down, again, cutting down on noise and just a smoother ride overall. Now on the bottom side, we do have a grease point, so a Zerk that allows you to grease this. It's going to come pre-greased, so no worries when it's brand new. But it is still very accessible, and again, that's also why it's nice to be able to pull this head off. You can grease that and then drop it back on, so it'll be nice and easy. This is where it's going to sit on the arms, where they have urethane on them. So the urethane will sit in this pocket when it's all latched together. Now, I do recommend putting a little bit of grease on that. That'll just cut down on a little bit of squeaking and just make it even smoother long term. But that handle, you'll see, this is where I lifted it up. So it automatically, as you raise this up, will allow you to get that slid off. And then when you have it latched in place and you put this pin, that handle really doesn't allow for this to drop back far enough to pull the head. So there you can see the security in action. Now there is a warning here on the head, and it's a great way to point out the fact that this is going to be used with a single point attachment. This is not something that you're going to want to use with a pivoting or a wedge style, so you know your sidewinders or things of those nature are not going to be something that you're going to want to use with the companion. Here we have the base, and this is what makes it OEM prep package for Ford specifically, because it drops into those puck packages. Now, the cool part is if you already have a companion fifth wheel and you want to, say you picked up a Ford with the OEM prep package that you previously didn't have, instead of putting a rail adapter kit or adding a whole different attachment, what you can do is simply get this replacement base, and then you can drop that companion head on here and you'll be good to go. So it's nice that you don't have to go get a whole nother fifth wheel hitch. You can just simply buy that base and drop this in place, and then you'll be ready to go just as before. Now, looking at the arms where the head sits, this is that urethane I talked about. These tend to, well, they have a little bit of slant towards the front right now, and that's so you can adjust the offset. So right now we have in the forward position. If you take these, rotate them, you can get it to be a little bit further back. So to give yourself just a little bit of clearance, it's really kind of up to how you want to set it up, where you want that weight over the axles. And as far as adjustability goes, these are going to be where you get that from. So these bolts go directly through the arms, and there's going to be some plates with threads on them that you can bolt up. And right now we have it in our middle height. You can adjust it 1 inch lower or 1 inch higher. That way, if you need to account for maybe a higher trailer or a lower trailer, you can definitely do that pretty easily. You are going to have to unbolt this if you plan on changing that after the fact. So something you might want to take in consideration is trying to measure your trailer by getting it nice and level, measuring this in the bed, and really trying to find that height first time, but it's really not the end of the world if you need to adjust it. Now, our base, I mentioned, we can pull this out and it breaks that down as far as weight. Super easy to do here. Let's take a closer look at how that all works. We have a linchpin here that goes through both handles and a center locking section here. So that makes it nice and easy. You know it's locked because it's going to be aligned. And these handles, pretty loose here. Now you can adjust the tension. What I recommend is you want just a little bit of tension, but still able to lock this in place. Sometimes these can be really tight and you really have to bump it. But as you start to use this, it's going to probably give you a little bit better tolerances, especially if your OEM pucks are brand new. You know, kind of work itself in. But if you need to make adjustments, you'll have a cotter pin. You'll just pull that out and you have a castle nut that you can adjust. And a lot of times just one segment really makes a huge difference of being, you know, too tight or too loose. So really finding that perfect medium, especially after a couple miles of really having this out on the road, means that you can get these handles to where they should be nice and easy to draw into place, but still give you a sense of confidence that it's locking in. So I'll have my handles out to the side, and I'll just unpin my other side, keeping those handles out. And then there's the 2 hand slots here, which is well designed by them, very well thought out, because now I can simply raise this directly out. It's not super terribly heavy. One person can definitely do this. And that's the thing, is that whole head doesn't need to be on here. So right now I can swap from having a full bed to a fifth wheel in probably about 30 seconds. Whereas some of the other fifth wheels, you're going to have to go find someone to help you. They're just super heavy. Unless you have a forklift or a tractor or something that can raise them out, some of them can get really bad. And that's the glory of the companion, especially if you plan on using your bed quite often. It's really not that big of a footprint, especially with this OEM prep package, and breaking it down just really makes it that much easier. And when locking these in place, you'll see that there is that extra tolerance to account for that puck to go in. So when you drop it in, I always recommend pushing down on that castle nut a little bit so you're getting that full opening, and then as you tighten it should get a little bit tighter. So pretty basic here, but this is what makes it specific to that OEM prep. So now that we've kind of taken a look at everything a little bit closer in depth, we'll get this drop back in. So just get my handles into that perpendicular position. You can see that drops in. These handles, just a little bit of tension, so that's about perfect. I mentioned push that down on that castle nut to get this to slide nice and smooth. Now we've taken a look at pretty much all the ins and outs of the Companion, but as far as stats go, that's obviously going to be important to make sure that you get the proper fifth wheel for your camper application. So this one is rated at 25,000 pounds. So heavy duty, you know, a great match for something like our F350 today. Vertical load limit is going to be 60 to 50, so that downward pressure directly on here. So again, very heavy duty. By no means is it the most heavy duty one out there, but as it gets higher up in those numbers, this is definitely the one that I start to kind of point people towards. Again, a lot of people just really like it. The gloss gray powder coat finish is something that really makes B&W stand out, whether it be their underbed gooseneck kits, their rail kits, or their fifth wheels. This is kind of standard for BMW, and really the quality of these products are fantastic. It's all American made. You can see a lot of love is put into it. It's a simple, clean design. Everything works well. Fit and finish, all the tolerance. They're just great on these. So huge fan of these. Now, the questions we get a lot of times though is how's it going to work with my truck? And today we have, well, ours is a long bed, so an 8 foot, so we don't need a slider or anything like that. But sometimes you wonder, is it going to work with a tonneau cover? Is it going to work with a toolbox? Basically, what's it going to be like to have this in the back of your truck and deal with it? So let's take a look at that. So with our tonneau cover kind of just rolled up, I have it roughly out where a in-bed truck box would be, and that's a lot of concern. I get that because you want the usability of your truck to keep all your stuff in there, but if a fifth wheel is going to get in the way or that box is going to get in the way, you know, that can cause issues, obviously. So let's take a look. Right now we have it in the most forward position, which is good. So this is going to be kind of the maximum of what it'd be. And what would swing forward the most on the fifth wheel is going to be the handle. So making sure that we can fully actuate it. I'll measure from this handle all the way back to the end of our bed. And we're coming in at 35.5 inches. So still plenty of room here. No worries that you're going to have any issues with that toolbox. Now measuring just from the furthest point on our fifth wheel, this goes back to 43.5 inches. So again, plenty of space up here. As you can see, you know, myself here, I got plenty of room to work around, but the tonneau cover is something that people always say, well, it might stick up higher than that tonneau cover and then I can't close it. Well, let's take a look at that. So the measurement for the toolbox is also important if you have a canister style powered tonneau cover, but even if you have just a regular tonneau cover, huge question. I get it. You want to make sure it's all going to interact with each other. So keep in mind we have this in the middle setting, so it can actually go up another inch. So we'll unroll this. This is just an aluminum, pretty flush style tonneau cover. So should be right across the bed rails. And with that, measuring to the top here, it's right at about 2 3/4. So even if I went up to the highest setting, I'd still have 1 1/4 inches. So it is going to clear your tonneau cover, so not to worry there. So that brings our total height in that middle position to right at 18 inches. Something that you might want to consider picking up is going to be a lube plate. That's just going to go on your kingpin attachment and create, you know, a little bit of slide here on our top of the head. And that way it's not going to be scratching this all up. It can rotate nice and free. I'll just drop this in and you'll see that this is going to allow it to spin around but not mangle up the top of your head, keeping it nice and clean. Now, if you don't have a long bed truck, something that you do want to take in consideration if you still want the Companion is possibly getting a sliding version of it. They still have the OEM prep for Ford in a sliding Companion configuration. The weight capacity does go down to 20,000 pounds instead of that 25,000, but that could be all the difference of being able to make those tight turns and not hit your cab on the corner of your truck. And here I have Bruce with me. He's a fellow installer.
How you doing?
Even before working here, Bruce had this Companion slider in his Chevy. Now this is OEM prep for a Chevy, but a lot of the same mechanics as far as the head and the base and the arms are all going to be roughly about the same. So I don't have a ton of experience taking these fifth wheels out and really seeing the difference. Bruce has. So Bruce, what's your take on the Companion?
I purchased it, as he said, before I actually started working here. I just like what B&W does and how their craftsmanship is. To me, it's top notch, and that's one reason why I went ahead and purchased that. Plus, I got the slider to, like Brad said, get that bulkhead of the trailer away from the cab of the truck during tight turns. I will mention, as I told these guys before, now you got to be careful with the slider because you can hit, the pin box can hit the top of the tailgate. It happened to me when I first put it in. But just keep that in mind. And I did find out that I can actually have my tailgate down with it in the back position and still go ahead and be able to maneuver around without the tailgate actually hitting the camper. So
good points from someone that's actually used it out in the wild and got to really see what it does. So out on the, towing your camper, how big is your camper?
It's actually, I weighed it and the full rig and everything, I'm around probably 11,000, 12,000 pounds. That's with the truck and the camper itself. So they're saying I probably got about 1,200 pounds I could still add to my camper, but I like to keep it a little lower. I don't want to push the limits per se, but the hitch is done well. It's held up well. Again, I probably tow 8 times or so a year, I'm not a full timer by any means, but it really has been a great hitch.
And attaching with the head being able to pivot, everything's nice and easy there. Noise, anything?
No, I don't even get any chucking or anything like that. Sometimes your pin box will be loose, your king pin inside the jaws there, and that does wrap 360 degrees around it. So I don't get any chattering or anything like that, any noise in the cab or anything.
So a firm believer?
For sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
So hearing, Bruce's stories of using it, it's nice to get kind of some insight to someone that's really had some real world experience with it. But I talk to pretty much anyone that I can around here that brings their vehicles in, and anyone that has a BMW fifth wheel or really any other products, they're always highly satisfied with it and swear by them. So those are some of my favorite products when, you don't even really have to do a sales pitch. The product sells itself because it's so good. So if you've made it this far in the video and you've considered getting the Companion and you're on the fence, I can fully vouch that this is going to be one that you're going to be really happy with. The B&W quality is just through and through some of the best out there. And it's definitely more of a premium fifth wheel hitch, but if you're a buy once, cry once kind of person, you're going to buy this and be completely happy. So this was a closer look at the B&W Companion fifth wheel, 4 OEM prep packages on Ford trucks at 25,000 pound capacity.